So it's a pleasure to be commemorating World Refugee Day by bringing together a multiplicity of voices and such a necessity to be foregrounding refugee voices amongst them. As the current administration continues to increase the number of refugees admitted into the United States, we need to do all that we can in order to respect the agency of individual refugees, as well as simultaneously to provide nuanced care and response. We also need to make sure that the imperative of this, it is accentuated, but we need to foreground it due to the fact that COVID has exacerbated inequities that already exist and that impact refugees disproportionately. We also must remember that while positive developments are worth celebrating, and there have been many of them over the past months, there is still ample work to be done. Tonight's discussion is meant to illuminate what the future of our local community can and should entail, so long as we all collaborate in building it and building more equitable futures for the families that we serve and will continue to serve.
We all different, but we all humans. We all want to be seen and work equal than others. There is some families facing several issues, such as barrier to finding a better jobs, barrier to get access to the health, access to the education. There is different groups, different organizations, all working and fight for this right for humans and also refugees. But it still is not enough. 1 year is not enough support. It should continue. Give them a resource, they can build their lives. Give them the equality.
So first, I think it starts really at the grassroots level, but then becomes intertwined with kind of the systems level and the policy level. And we also have to kind of shift the conversation so that it's not displaced young people talking about stories of displacement necessarily, but just displaced young people talking about whatever it is they want to talk about, and their experience with displacement being not a marker that prevents them from talking about other things, but rather they're just a part of their identity. And so I think it's shifting the conversation and thinking about what kind of opportunities can we create that are allowing folks to share their own stories on their own terms, and then how can we link that expression with the institutions that are oftentimes influencing the narrative in ways that are really powerful and really dominant. And so
we need to bring more people into this understanding of the incredible importance of refugee communities and how we can support them. And I also think that more broadly in city government, we need to make sure that we're meeting refugees where they are, because with English barriers and people coming from all sorts of different countries with different political systems, we need to make sure that people are able to access our meetings and understand the process. So we need to be knocking on doors and showing up, not just for political purposes, not just to volunteer necessarily, but sometimes just to listen, just as friends and neighbors, so we can understand and hear from folks about what they need from city government.
There are better ways to resettle refugees. Just look up to the north, to Canada. In Canada, if you're a refugee and you arrive today, you'll be told, we don't want you to work for a year. A whole year, we want you to spend time learning the language and learning about culture and society and getting a sense of self-respect and control over your life. Not here in the United States. The American approach, very American, is you have to hit the ground running. This is a tough self-help program. We're going to give you a little bit of help, but you've got to get the first job you can possibly find and cover those expenses as much as you can, and worry about advancing on your own, maybe going to night school or whatever.
As as you mentioned, COVID-19, like for so many other things, has just laid bare many of these disparities that already existed, especially when it comes to barriers. So as you mentioned, language is one of the main ones, but there are so many other barriers to care too, whether that be having resources in proper languages or that are culturally concordant with somebody's background, whether that has to do with making sure that we have screening tools that are translated properly, both from a language perspective, but also from an idiom perspective. So understanding kind of somebody's way of conceptualizing the world and being able to understand where the challenges that families may face may be. And then when it comes to finding providers that everybody can trust is another big barrier as well. So making those connections, finding somebody you can trust with some sort of similar background, all of those things are so important.
Refugees need respect from the moment they arrive. And as soon as possible, refugee resettlement is a last resort. It is a jarring, difficult process for someone to go through.
Hopefully all of this talk can make a change in many refugees we're gonna welcome during next few years in Connecticut. Thank you.